Thank you for tuning in. On this episode, myself, Grant, and my older brother, Collin, will be discussing his childhood, high school, college, as well as future career aspirations. Welcome back to another episode of Etc. I'm Grant Preeves. We're here with my brother Collin, who's thankful enough to join us today. First of all, Collin, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Grant?
Very good. Collin is actually it's his last day of Christmas break, but he's here during one of his breaks of college. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But first of all, Collin, for those of you who do not know, kind of explain who you are in relation to PR, and obviously how you know me, and kind of just what your MO was during high school.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Collin Preeves. I graduated during the class of 2020, which was COVID times galore, which was fun.
It's still COVID time.
I know it's still COVID times, but like that was like bad COVID.
That was in the beginning thick of things. Yes.
Yes, I think they can figure that out. But I was a big theater guy. I did speech team. And how I know this guy is that he's directly related to me.
Yes, Collin is my oldest brethren. We're directly related. That's
your oldest brethren.
That's the only way you get on the show. If you didn't know me, no way we'd have him on. Not high profile enough, but no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Wow.
Okay, so just some things. You kind of hinted at theater. Can you talk more about that? Just overall, what have been some of your passions in life, even like before high school? Just what have been some things you've enjoyed doing throughout your short life?
All right. Well, as I mentioned before, theater is my big life's passion.
Yeah.
I went to a theater camp at Central High School when I was in 4th grade, and I fell in love with theater and acting. It's just, there's no other feeling like it in the world, just being able to go up there and just perform. Yeah,
I remember I did that same theater camp. I never actually acted or anything. I was always in the tech booth. I did lighting and sound. Would you say that experience during 4th grade was your first exposure to theater? What made you even want to join that camp in the first place?
I don't even remember exactly. I think my first ever exposure to theater, I thought about this recently, was when I was like, 5 or 6 years old. I went to see a production of Charlotte's Web at the Rouse Center.
Yeah.
I do not remember a singular thing about it, aside from the fact that Grandma was there as well. It was Dad and Grandma and I. But it wasn't until I went to that theater camp when I was actually in it, and I was like, this is really fun, and this is something I want to do.
Yeah. So theater is a big part of your life, as you've already discussed, and we'll get to that later on as you talk about theater during your high school experience and even now in college. I know this is kind of a broad question. Answer kind of how you want to, but aside from theater for now, how would you describe your life up to high school and what you've been interested in aside from theater, because you've had other things in your life?
Yeah, when I was a kid, originally I just wanted to be an artist in general. I was doing a lot of art clubs at elementary school. There was a program I was a part of called Young Rembrandts.
I do remember that.
Which was like an after-school art thing. They offered a variety of classes to do that. I did horseback riding for a time.
That was fun.
Just went in, learned how to ride the horse.
That does sound correct.
And then I don't know, most of my childhood was just playing video games
and you've grown up in a sports household and you never took up sports.
No.
You've had some experience with sports when you were little, though, didn't you? Do the tennis camp?
Yeah, there was tennis camp, and then there was a brief period of time when I was considering doing baseball.
Really?
Yeah, and then I was like, I don't want to do it.
You played soccer too, right?
Oh yeah, we all played soccer together. We all played t-ball at some point.
You played t-ball?
Yeah, there was a Y camp, and then we all did t-ball.
Y, okay, fine. Yeah,
and then we did the Y soccer, we did the upward soccer.
Collin does work at the YMCA. For now,
Yes. For now.
So what turned you off from sports? What kind of made you decide it wasn't gonna be for you?
To be honest, I just think it was very boring.
Really?
I don't know. I went to like about 1,000 baseball games and as a kid, like,
Oh, you did.
well, like hyperbole. Let me have this. And it was just like, I don't know. There was some element of sports to me that wasn't engaging. I guess like I appreciate sports. Like it takes a lot of talent and time and effort to get to a level of doing sports.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't for me for some reason. I just didn't think it was that engaging.
Were you good at sports?
No, I'm not good at sports.
Well, that also might be a reason. You're deciding not to play.
Yes.
So okay, moving on from sports because that's not your area of expertise.
Right.
So you're gonna make me laugh. Okay. There's me, you, and Aiden, all related.
Yes.
Aiden and I have had the privilege of being in the same grade all throughout our life.
Mhm.
So at least during the younger years, we had each other. But you being 2 years older and technically like a year and 9 months older,
Mhm.
you had to kind of go through things alone. You were the older brother. So what was it like going to, obviously high school, but middle school, just all those things alone without us because we were younger?
I don't know. It didn't feel weird because when I was at school, I was very sociable. I made friends. What was that?
No, I get it.
I should get that out with you. Well, when I at school, I was very sociable. I made friends pretty easily. There are friends I've made in elementary school and high school that I'm still very close friends with today. There's my good friend Amber, who I met at the Y summer camp, who eventually we were in the same classes in elementary school. There was my good friend Nathan, who I met on the bus in middle school. And we have forged a very close friendship that has lasted for years.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're in high school, right? Picture this.
Picture this.
Not too long ago.
Uh-huh.
Go more into depth about your activities and kind of the progression of it, because I know you've developed more activities as you got into high school. But you first approach high school. I know you joined news team. You're the one who got me in the news team. This is through news team. Maybe talk a little bit about what news team meant to you.
News team was a really cool activity. It was Mrs. Bland allowed a lot of creative freedom in terms of what you wanted to write about. I wrote,
or even beyond writing.
Beyond
writing this podcast.
Yeah, I remember the filming stuff started with my friend Adnan. And hit with the howl, and you've since taken over.
Yeah, Dimitri and I take care of that now.
I remember the very first articles I wrote for Wolf Prince before it was even. Did that name change? I could have sworn it was just a PR newspaper, and then Wolf Prince came around during our time.
No, the website is prwolfprince.com. It's been around for a while.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm misremembering. But like the very first articles I wrote for that were reviews for books that have been around for a long time. I wrote my very first article, I think, was a review on Animal Farm, which was interesting.
And then you also do reviews for movies, and also maybe not reviews, but talked about musicals or productions that are going to be put on.
Oh yeah, I guess you could say I was the fine arts news person for Wolf Prince. I know I did a couple of articles where I interviewed Mr. Jensen and Mr. D about things that they were doing and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So as you started to realize there was something you wanted to do, was that something you envisioned, career-wise, or did you initially, before you hit on theater, did you have any other career ambitions? Even before high school, just like, when I grow up, I want to do this. What were some of those things?
When I was a kid, when I grew up, I wanted to be an artist. And then I discovered acting, and for the longest time after that, I wanted to be an actor. And then during high school, I think there was a time when I kind of fell off of that, where it was like, this career is very difficult and very unrealistic.
Well,
so I let me get there. I'm getting to the end of the story. So halfway through high school, I was like, you know what? I think teaching is a more conceivable career. It's something I would enjoy doing.
But English, right?
English or
Or
something
I-
like, at the time I was pretty open. I
Okay.
think initially going in, I wanted to teach bio.
Oh,
But
that's right. Yeah.
But getting into, there were two big things that made me realize that that wasn't necessarily the path, I guess, or the definitive path. One was working with the YMCA.
Really?
It's a wonderful job, but like I think that there was a time when I was like, oh, I want to work with like the little kids, like they're so curious about the world, and I could teach them all these big things. Turns out they're demonic.
Okay, that's perhaps a generalization, but
It's a generalization.
but I assume then you made the what about teaching older kids?
When I went to the Y, I was like, okay, that helped me discover that I wanted to work with older kids, because starting out with the camp, I worked with the oldest group of kids, which was really fun.
Like what, 12, 13?
12, 13-year-olds, so it was like middle school and above I could do.
Okay.
Then I went to college, and I remember talking to Dad about where to go and what my major plans were. And by that point, I had taken 2 theater classes and was going to take a 3rd theater class in college. And he's like, you know, Collin, you've taken 3 theater classes so far. I think it's pretty clear that you still really love theater. And so I was like, you know what, you're right. I really love theater. But as I've learned about the theater profession and making it in the theater world, you have to have a decent side hustle or a backup plan. So that's why I'm doing a theater English major. Who knows? A double major, because who knows, I could do acting, or I could do acting and teaching on the side, or there's just a lot of options open.
Yeah. So transitioning back into theater, transitioning back into theater, smooth transition there. You've had several roles, probably enough to fill many podcast episodes, but if you could pick 2 or really just one of your most notable roles, what was it and what impact did it have on you?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many wonderful roles that I've done at both PR and otherwise, but I think the most what?
No, sorry.
I think the most vivid acting experience I had was my senior year. The fall play was a play called Kodachrome. In the past years, the fall play was usually a comedy. Sophomore year was my first time doing it, and my big role in that play was Ramon. My junior year was the Complete History of America abridged. I had 2 big things in that. I was a sort of Eddie Valiant, Joe Friday style film noir detective. For like basically the second half of the second act and onward.
I don't know what that means. You were a detective?
I was a detective,
okay.
Film noir style detective.
Okay.
And then I was also Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Where I got to take audience questions, which was
I do remember that.
Hilarious. That was actually my gateway into the Central Improv team as well.
I do remember Ramsey asking you a question. Did he ask you? I can't remember the question.
I think Ramsey asked. I can't remember. I don't remember the question Ramsey asked.
It was funny though, because I remember people laughing. But I'll let you, finish talking about your senior experience with the play Kodachrome. But after that, can you kind of tell us about, the college decision process, and more specifically, I'm interested in how COVID impacted that because. But yeah, finish talking about your senior with the play.
So what was difficult about Kodachrome was the fact that, as I mentioned before, it was like the first drama that we had done in a while, and it was the first drama I'd ever been a part of. I played this character named the Perfume Maker, who was this very kind of, I don't know how you describe him. He has a lot of pent up aggression.
Why?
Well, he doesn't get out much. He's kind of a hermit. He focuses on creating the perfect scent, because he's a perfume maker. But because of that, he's not entirely as socialized as most other people are. So, and he gets very agitated about his work when it doesn't go as well as he wants it to. So a lot of the character was doing large outbursts. I'm not a naturally angry person, or at least I wasn't back then when I did the play.
You're not.
But Mr. D would just kind of be like, I need you to be more angry. And I just didn't know how to do that. I'd be like, okay, I'm ready. Hold on. and I'd be stuck. I didn't know how to go about it. So I had to really focus outside of rehearsals on just really occupying the space of the character. How do they move? How do they think? How do they talk? What tics do they have? What ticks them off? And during the production, I was like, okay, here's the plan. You never stop being the perfume maker during a performance, on or off stage.
Like method acting.
Yes, like method acting. And because of how much work I'd done, when it came time to go on stage and do the angry bits, it just worked so brilliantly. It just felt very natural. I was able to unlock screaming I'd never done before. I really felt like Al Pacino out there. It was great.
That's a good goal. Was that one of your inspirations to get in the right mindset? Al
No,
Pacino?
actually, I didn't discover Al Pacino until later, but now he is one of my acting heroes. I was lucky enough to see him scream at the top of his lungs in the theater recently when we went to see House of Gucci.
Oh, that's right. You said theater. I thought we were in the plays.
Theater with a TER at the end.
Well, okay.
And then do you want me to talk about the admissions process then?
Yeah, or just talk about your experience with applying to college and COVID specifically.
And COVID. So COVID didn't come until later. I was lucky enough to apply for colleges, do all my essays, do my overnights where they allowed me to do overnights. And I finally picked out Carleton because it felt very much like I could be at home there.
Yeah,
it was very good. The people were very cool. They had a very similar sense of humor to that I had.
That's good.
But what was interesting is I got admitted, and then COVID hit, and so the college was very wishy-washy about what its plan was going to be. So for a period of time, I didn't even know if I was going to go that year.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And I was considering taking a gap year. But eventually I came to the realization that it was not to slam anybody else who took a gap year, but it's life moves even if you don't. And I figured it would be a better experience for me to adapt to a COVID life instead of just waiting it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like I made the correct decision because now people who did a gap year and they expected COVID to go away by then, we're still having COVID, and there's still a lot of uncertainty with Omicron at the moment in terms of COVID.
Yes. So you kind of got to go through at least the searching process without worrying about COVID. I do remember we went on that trip where we visited Carleton and Grinnell. That was very fun. COVID was not a thing yet.
Yes.
And I actually remember that time very fondly, one, because there wasn't COVID, and two, I was a sophomore, and that experience is the first time I started thinking about college. So I do remember that time very fondly. I do like Carleton. I'm obviously not going to go there because I have different plans and I don't want to go to the same school as you. But yeah. So kind of. Now zooming out.
Okay.
Zooming out. What are some of your life goals? Any dream jobs? I know your dual major allows you to have flexible options, but do you have a dream job?
A dream job? I don't know if it's a way. I don't know if dream job is a good way of describing it, but my vision. No, it's fine. It's okay. But my vision for my future is that entertainment and performing is what I love to do. And being around theater is what I love, is where I love to be.
Well said.
And so I think if I can have a career in theater, being able to get married, support a family, even with the unstableness that is theater, I think I'll be happy regardless whether or not I become a big star. I mean, it'd be fun I think if I ever became a big star, I think the thing I would enjoy most is getting to work with a lot of my heroes, Al Pacino and Danny DeVito and John Goodman and a lot of these other big actors.
If they're all still alive by the time you get
They will.
Al Pacino is
I know Al Pacino.
But the interview is probably fine.
Mhm.
So would you say still, because you kind of give me the impression the specific job isn't really what is important, as well, just as long as you can stay in the field of theater.
Mhm.
Would you say that being true, you still when you think about yourself in the future, are you still more excited for being able to be in the theater world or be able to provide for a family by being in the theater world?
I think,
Basically, are you more excited for the career or for the family part of it?
I don't know.
Or I guess both is also
Right,
fine.
I'd say both. My logic is that I think what I want most in life is to get married to someone who I love very dearly,
That
and
is,
to-
yes, that's a
and
good
to have a
one.
family. And I think what I came to realize was that if you can have that and maintain that, what you do for a career outside of that really doesn't matter as long as that's sustainable. So you might as,
Well, you have to enjoy it.
that's the point. So
Yeah.
you might as well do what you love to do. There's no point in living and being unhappy.
Because, as Jim Carrey once said, you can fail at what you don't want to do, so you may as well fail at what you do want to do.
Absolutely, very wise man, Jim
I
Carrey.
used that in a speech.
Mm,
I got an A on it, so.
That's a good speech.
So, we've had a great discussion. Obviously, I'd like for it to go on longer, but we only have, people only have a certain attention span.
Right.
So closing thoughts, do you have any advice for people currently in high school? Really any advice you want to give them, probably more specifically, life advice and about being happy and fulfilled. Because you're in a position where you probably have a little bit more experience than people in high school right now. They have more perspective on, college and actually, what's probably more important in life. So shoot.
I think what I've come to learn in the short life that I've lived is that ultimately the person who's experiencing life is you.
I just realized.
No. Let me elaborate. When maybe that's not a good way of describing
No,
it. It made more sense in my head. But when you only get one life,
yes,
you spend all of your high school career preparing for standardized testing and getting good grades and getting good AP scores, and you're obsessed with ensuring that you have a good future. And that's not a bad thing to do. But at the same time, I think you need to focus on what makes you happy now. Take the because there are lots of people who I was friends with in high school who I've fallen out of contact with. And I wish I had spent more time with them and gotten to know them better.
Yeah.
And even today, I look back and think about times when I didn't have to worry about all of these big things. Sitting back and watching Lord of the Rings with the family. These were experiences we had when we were kids. That corporations take advantage of because of nostalgia. But anyway, tell me I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
That's a completely different
I know
podcast episode.
Okay, anyway, so live your life in the moment.
Okay.
Do what you enjoy because you are only going to be young once. Make sure that you make memories and make time to be with the people you love when you're young.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that. And adding on to that, because it's also my show. Yeah, I'd say is for me, someone who's always worried about the future and stuff. If you're always thinking about the future, you're being robbed of the present. So
very enough.
And the present is really the only thing you have. The future is simply, just thinking about something in the present, and the past is already gone. So just, stay in the present, because that's when life is happening. Not in the future, not in the past, but life is happening right now. So
you never know what's going to happen. We all thought life was going to be a certain way, and then COVID came along. So
COVID's not great, but a great example of the importance of
it's not great,
but it's a great example of the importance of why you need to enjoy what you have while you have it.
Yeah,
So with that being said, thank you so much for being on the show. I think we had a great time.
thank you for having me.
Hopefully in some time in the future you'll be on again. Or I just always enjoy having conversations with
Yeah,
you,
sure.
camera or not.
Mhm.
So that has been etc. Signing off.
Goodbye.
Join us on the next episode when Jonah and I discuss the new year, our resolutions, as well as current events ranging from new music to the unstoppable Chicago Bulls.